Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video, we are going to be doing the official MrBucsNation 2.0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers 7-round mock draft. So guys, without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, where have I been the past 11 days? Well, first thing that happened was I accepted a job working customer service with the Tampa Bay Rays. Thank you everybody who gave the support when I posted about it in the community tab here on the YouTube channel. Seriously, greatly appreciated. So I was busy with that for a couple of days, going to the interview, asking a ton of questions about, certain types of things that I need to do and where I need to go and when I need to be at certain places, stuff along those lines. You guys all know how it is transitioning jobs. I haven't fully left Publix. I'm only going to be working there a very minimal amount, but I had to do that for a couple of days. Now, around Wednesday or Thursday of last week, I was actually ready to come back and start making videos again, and then I got a very not fun upper respiratory infection. You guys know the deal: sore throat, sneezing, runny nose, coughing, the whole deal, okay? And that makes recording videos pretty much impossible, and that has lasted pretty much to the current day. I'm still recovering from it a very tiny amount. You can still hear it in my voice a little bit, but that has put me out of commission for, pretty much over a week. It was unfortunate, but there was nothing I could do about it. So that's where I've been the past 10 or 11 days. There's all my explanation. Let's get into the mock draft. For any mock draft that anybody is going to be doing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, you still have to ask the question, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to keep Jameis Winston, or are they not going to keep Jameis Winston? No, for the purposes of this mock draft, I'm still going to say that the Buccaneers are going to be keeping Jameis Winston. So for the purposes of this mock draft, I'm going to start off in round number 1 by getting him some more protection along the offensive line. Specifically, Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle out of Louisville, 6'7", 369 pounds. I absolutely love this guy. Actually, some of you guys pointed out in the comments section of one of my latest videos that I completely forgot about him when talking about certain offensive linemen that the Buccaneers could add this offseason. So after those comments were made, I did a little bit of research, looked into it. The guy's an absolute beast, and I very much think that he could be in play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with their first round draft pick. The guy is pretty much a DeMar Dodson clone, which means he'd be the perfect replacement for a guy like DeMar Dodson, who is getting up there in age. We all know this. His play has been declining. So I think when you get a guy with like a Mekhi Becton, I think you really can't do any wrong. So for the purposes of this first round pick for this mock draft, I'm going to be selecting Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle out of Louisville. I'm going to continue the trend of building up the trenches for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with this second round draft pick here. This time it's going to be along the defensive side of the line. Now I know there's a lot of players here. Jonathan Taylor, running back out of Wisconsin, J.K. Dobbins, running back out of Ohio State, among some other players here, Zach Bond, edge rusher out of Wisconsin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back out of LSU. A lot of people love that guy, but I think that the Buccaneers need to continue to draft trench players and younger defenders, especially to replace guys like Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul when his time comes up, amongst some other players that are a little bit aging on that defense. Now, they do have some very young pieces in the secondary, and they do have some young pieces along the linebacking core and defensive line, but replacing a guy like Ndamukong Suh isn't an easy thing to do, and I think whenever you take a guy like Raekwon Davis, interior defensive lineman out of Alabama, I think that you're getting a pretty darn good replacement for a guy like Suh, who isn't getting any younger. He's going to be 33, 34 years old here coming up soon. I think the Buccaneers are going to try and bring him back, but that's never a guarantee. So spending a second round draft pick on an interior defensive lineman makes a lot of sense. Raekwon Davis, 6'7", 312 pounds. He can play defensive end in a 3-4, 100% in my opinion. Pairing him up with a guy like Vita Vea would just be absolutely disgusting in my opinion, because Raekwon Davis, he does show some very good pass rush ability, and he's a pretty decent run stuffer as well. So combining those two really young studs of defensive linemen would just be absolutely lovely, and then you'd have William Golston still doing some pretty decent William Golston things. So for the purposes of the second round of this mock draft, Raekwon Davis, interior defensive lineman out of Alabama, is going to be the pick. Now guys, again, for every mock draft that I do here, it is sometimes hard to work with the Draft Network system of, doing certain things like certain players dropping and stuff along those lines. For example, where it picks 76 here and Jalen Hurts is still on the board and everybody's going to be typing in the comments, why didn't you take Jalen Hurts? Again, I try and do this as realistically as I can. I don't think it is very realistic for Jalen Hurts to drop all the way to pick 76. I think he will be taken before then. And you can say that for a handful of players that are here right now, like Davis from California, Duggar from Lenoir, Ryan, among other players. So I'm going to be, kind of skipping some of these guys in terms of, yeah, they're there, but that's not necessarily realistic. One player who could realistically be there, however, is Darrell Taylor, edge defender out of Tennessee. Now, 6'4", 259 pounds. I like this guy a lot. From what I've researched and from what I've seen from him, he's pretty much a pure pass rusher. And what I mean by that is that, he has a variety of moves. He's really, really good as a pure pass rusher, like I just said. But in terms of run defense, among other things, he can struggle a little bit. Now, a lot of what this pick is trying to help replace a guy like JPP in the future. He's obviously not going to be around forever. He may only have 1 or 2 years left in him, or in a certain case, he may have no years left on the team because he could go leave in free agency and go sign with a different team. That's entirely a possibility. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did draft Anthony Nelson last year, which is good. 4th round draft pick, investing in an edge defender. That's awesome. And you still have Shaq Barrett as always. But it's always good to add more edge defenders whenever you can. And adding a guy like Darrell Taylor, I think could be very, very beneficial. 6'4", 259 pounds. Little bit undersized. Maybe does need to up his weight a little bit. But I always like those pure edge rushers. I think that they have a lot of value that they can add to teams, especially as rotational types of guys. If the Buccaneers weren't bringing back JPP in this scenario, it adds to a lot of depth. And if they are bringing back JPP in this scenario, even better, because he can learn behind guys like Shaq Barrett and like JPP, and those are pretty much 2 of the best guys in the league that you can learn behind. So in the 3rd round, Darrell Taylor, edge defender out of Tennessee, is this pick. Again, much like I've been saying here, Benjamin, running back out of Arizona State, we're at pick 107 right now. It's not going to make a lot of sense for him to be here in this round. However, again, one player who could be here, running back Anthony McFarland out of Maryland, 5'9", 198 pounds. Now, I know I've literally been pounding the wall saying the Buccaneers don't need to add a running back this offseason. They don't need to do it. I trust Ronald Jones. Just give Ronald Jones the ball more, please. I beg of you. And I'm still going to continue to pound that wall the entire offseason unless one scenario happens, which I will talk about somewhere in the future in a video. But I do understand that the Buccaneers taking a running back is entirely a possibility. Peyton Barber, he could be going off into free agency. They could easily be losing him. They're going to need some more running back depth to help out guys like Ronald Jones and Dario Ogunbowale as well. And I think Anthony McFarland out of Maryland would be such a good pick. He was one of the best running backs in the nation last year. He was absolutely phenomenal. He had a tear for a certain chunk of the year last year, and I absolutely loved it. I have a personal soft spot for Anthony McFarland, but I think he can be a good all-around running back. I think he could, at the very least, be a very, very quality depth running back, if not a future starter for many NFL teams. So I am going to break my own rule here. I'm going to take a running back in this mock draft. Again, these mock drafts aren't necessarily what I want to happen. It's what could possibly happen given certain scenarios. So the Buccaneers take a running back here, Anthony McFarland, running back out of Maryland. Next pick I'm going to be making here, I'm actually going to be going back to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to be selecting safety Jordan Fuller out of Ohio State. Now, Jordan Fuller's biggest trait is his athleticism, which is really important because you need to be insanely athletic to be a defender on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is literally just a fact. Bruce Arians has said it multiple times. Hey, if you're not running at a high enough speed, you are not going to be able to play in this defense. So 6'2", 205-pound safety Jordan Fuller is a pretty decent selection in the later rounds, in my opinion. The guy's just an absolute freak. He is a little bit raw in other categories like tackling and stuff along those lines, but I feel that this is at least a pretty decent depth option. They are going to be losing some guys to free agency. Andrew Adams is certainly no guarantee to come back. We also don't know what kind of condition Justin Evans is going to be coming back from his injuries as well, so I think being safe and adding a safety like Jordan Fuller is a pretty darn good move in my opinion. He's certainly certainly got the size. 6'2", 205 pounds. Good lord, that's absolutely insane. He could be playing linebacker if he wanted to. But I really like the athleticism he brings. He is raw in certain other categories, but I think if any defensive coaching staff could get the most out of the raw athleticism that Jordan Fuller has, it would be Todd Bowles and his coaching staff. So Jordan Fuller, safety out of Ohio State, is going to be my next pick. For the last pick here, you guys can already see the list over here. It is a quarterback. Now, obviously, I did say at the beginning of this mock draft the Buccaneers were going to be keeping Jameis Winston, but that doesn't mean the Buccaneers could add a little bit of depth at the quarterback position. Specifically, I'm talking about James Morgan, quarterback out of FIU. I love James Morgan. I saw him play in the East-West Shrine game. He's got the prototypical size that you want to see in a quarterback. 6'4", 213 pounds, excellent late round waiver pick in my opinion. You know, he is such a really good quarterback and just a phenomenal person in general. I was able to talk to him a little bit at the East-West Shrine game. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's got the size, he's got the build, he's got a pretty decent arm in my opinion, and I think at the absolute least, he could be a very, very decent quarterback for you, if not a potential starter somewhere down the line. I know that sounds crazy, but guys, I really do have a lot of faith in James Morgan. I think that he can be a pretty darn good NFL quarterback. He has all the measurables. He's got the arm talent. He just needs somebody to work with, and what better person to work with than Bruce freaking Arians, Clyde Christensen, and Byron Leftwich. I think it's a pretty good group of guys to work with, especially Bruce Arians and Clyde Christensen. I think that James Morgan would benefit greatly from working with those guys. So I am going to improve the quarterback position a little bit here, especially in terms of the overall depth, by selecting James Morgan with the last pick of my Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2.0 mock draft. So overall, I really enjoyed this mock draft. I thought, we were able to solve a lot of needs in this mock draft, and we did do it in a very different way as opposed to the first mock draft I did. First things first, Mekhi Becton in the first round, offensive tackle out of Louisville. Absolutely loved that pick. He would absolutely be a DeMar Dodson replacement pretty much right away. I could see him starting day number one. Raekwon Davis, same thing. I could see him starting day one as well, if not, being the full-on replacement over a guy like Ndamukong Suh. If they were to bring Ndamukong Suh back, I could see him starting over a guy like William Golston. Maybe the Buccaneers would trade him. Either way, I think whether or not it's, a combination of Raekwon Davis, Vita Vea, and William Golston, or if it's William Golston, or I guess I should say Ndamukong Suh, Raekwon Davis, and Vita Vea. You really can't go wrong with either combination, in my opinion. Those guys would wreak absolute havoc on the defensive line, and that would just be absolutely phenomenal, especially Raekwon Davis and Vita Vea together. In the third round, Darrell Taylor, edge rusher out of Tennessee. I love this pick because it just continues to add more edge rushers. Anthony Nelson, Darrell Taylor, those are guys, or Darrell Taylor, I guess I should say. Those guys would basically be your future, along with a guy like Shaq Barrett. JPP, he's not going to be able to play forever, so adding a guy like Darrell Taylor, Anthony Nelson, and Shaq Barrett, those guys would pretty much be your foundation at that position. And Taylor, out of Tennessee, is a very, very awesome pure pass rusher with a lot of moves. Next, running back Anthony McFarland out of Maryland. Again, I know I've been pounding the wall. The Buccaneers don't need to take a running back this year, but I would be fine with Anthony McFarland. I really like him, and I still don't think it is that necessary, but man, I would love it because Anthony McFarland, he's a really, really darn good running back in my opinion, and at the very least, he'd be a phenomenal backup behind Ronald Jones, who would get some playing time, and he would still do some awesome Anthony McFarland things. Jordan Fuller, safety out of Ohio State. The dude's freakishly athletic, and I think that this coaching staff can harness that athleticism and turn him into a pretty darn good safety. He's certainly got the size for it, 6'2", 205 pounds. He's phenomenal. And then finally, James Morgan, quarterback out of Florida International. I love James Morgan. I saw him at the East-West Shrine game. He'd be a phenomenal backup quarterback behind Jameis Winston. He could even be something in the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really do have a lot of faith in James Morgan. I think he's going to be a very, very good NFL quarterback, and learning behind Bruce Arians Simmons and Clyde Christensen would just make him have that much more potential. So, guys, that is it for the Mr. Bucs Nation Tampa Bay Buccaneers 7-round mock draft 2.0. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Sorry I'm still a little bit nasally, still a little bit congested. That's my bad. I just wanted to make this video, come back and start up the videos again because I love making them for all of you guys. But let me know what you thought about this mock draft down in the comment section below. If you guys have any mock drafts that you've been doing on the Draft Network or just in general, hey, go ahead and put those down in the comment section below as well. It would be greatly appreciated. But guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. But until the next video or the next live stream, I'll see you guys in the next one. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.